This year, the Tetra Guitar Quartet is celebrating its 25th anniversary with the release of its 8th studio album, About Time. Today, I've taken the opportunity to talk to the members about the varied repertoire on this new disc. This disc opens with the Elgar. Exactly what was the decision behind that, and how do you feel it works in that position?
I just think it's a very bright, positive, energetic piece, a lovely opener to an album, and also it does sound like a typically Tetra piece, if you like. It does have a lot of colour and little percussion effects and things like that. People who know Tetra will be familiar with previous albums where you hear that kind of arrangement, Comme, for example.
Roland Dyens is a big important name in the guitar world. How exactly did he come to write for the quartet?
Well, we've known Roland for quite a few years in the sense that we've played at the same festivals, so we've met each other. But the last time, I think it was around about 2011 when we were in Brno in the Czech Republic, we played at the festival there. Roland happened to be in the audience and came gushing backstage. He says, you know, in his usual exuberant self, I really must write for you. I want to write a piece for you. We thought fantastic, because obviously he's a great musician, great guitarist, and great character, so I thought this is going to be quite an interesting piece.
And when you commission a piece from a very well-known composer like Dyens, obviously there's a very high degree of expectation about what you're going to receive. So how pleased are you with the piece that you have?
Oh, we're delighted. It's fantastic. We knew it'd be good, but it's even better than that.
Steve, the idea of having Mahler song arrangements for this disc actually came at the suggestion of a former member, as I understand it.
That's right. Several years ago, Richard Hand suggested to me that I ought to put my threat into practice and actually arrange some Mahler for the quartet. We'd often sort of thought, wouldn't it be great to play this music on guitar quartet? Very sadly, Richard died. He had a brain hemorrhage in 2011, and it was very shortly after that I decided that it would be great to do these Mahler arrangements as a kind of tribute for Richard. So I trawled through Mahler's entire output, because very little of it might be sort of obvious for guitar quartet. So I looked at every song, every movement of every symphony, and then came up with a suite of 6 pieces. And rather than transcribing them straight from the Mahler, I sort of found certain qualities in them to sort of emphasize. So there's a beautiful song from The Song of the Earth, which is about youth, and it has all these lovely, beautiful Far Eastern textures and so on in it. And I thought, well, I'll maybe make the guitar sound a bit like kotos and have some sort of Chinese influence. So it comes across sounding a lot more like sort of Chinese folk music than the original Mahler orchestrations. So it was that kind of thing all the way through. So some of the songs will be shortened, others will be sort of stretched or transformed in some way, so that the piece we end up with is full of Mahler melodies, harmonies and flavours and colours and so on, but it's sort of completely transformed to sort of fit the guitar quartet.
Something like a Beethoven piano sonata is obviously highly instrument specific. So exactly how does the process of taking something written in that way and translating it to a completely different movement, such as a guitar quartet, work?
Well, I think in general when you're doing arrangements, you're not just going through the process of moving notes from one instrument to another. You're actually trying to get into the mind's eye of the composer as you imagine it could have been, and that's sort of the activity. So in doing that with this piece, I tried to put myself in mind of the kind of effects with the dynamics and the extreme range that he was trying to get. And when they wouldn't work on our instruments, particularly dynamics, this is an important point, to try and find other kind of qualities that the guitars do have. We know in various cases where, you know, a fortissimo would be, I would actually ended up using a pianissimo effect, which a guitar does extremely well in harmonics, for example, and this kind of thing. So, and this is when you get into the realm of it being starting to be less of a direct transcription and more of a kind of creative arrangement, I guess.
Tim Garland was commissioned for one of the new pieces on the disc. The piece is entitled Canterbury Bells. Presumably this was the starting point for his idea.
Yes, and I think obviously one of the lovely things about a guitar is, from a composer's point of view, is the colour and the different timbre that you can get from the instrument, particularly harmonics. And when you have 4 guitars, those possibilities really multiply. So this idea of having harmonics which sound like bells was Tim's starting point. And it happens that he grew up in Canterbury, so we have the idea of Tim in his bedroom growing up with these jazz riffs going through his head at the same time as these lovely bell sounds are drifting in through the window.
Works by Thomas Morley appear on this disc, and as I understand it, this goes back to the very roots of the Tetra recording.
Indeed. Tetra this season celebrating 25 years being together as a quartet. And in all that time we've played repertoire from all different eras and so on. But there's one piece from our very first concert that we never put on disc, and this is a collection of pieces from Thomas Morley's first book of consort lessons. Wonderful, wonderful pieces by Garland, Allison, Thomas Morley himself. But rather than giving us a kind of straight version, he gives us a version with lots and lots of divisions, lots and lots of extra little runs and so on.